What if the real mastermind behind the scandal wasn't the name everyone's been talking about? What if the man at the center of the storm was someone much closer to home? This shocking twist in the courtroom will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew. June 27, 2025, the Southern District of Manhattan. It was supposed to be the day everything came to an end for one of the most famous figures in the entertainment industry. Diddy, the legendary artist, stood on trial for charges that could destroy everything he'd built. But just when it seemed like the prosecution was about to wrap up their case, something unexpected happened. A federal agent walked in, holding a mysterious device that would turn the entire trial on its head. On the screen, a video played, less than 3 minutes long, but powerful enough to change the entire course of the case. The shocking twist? The video didn't feature Diddy at all. Instead, it was his son, Justin Combs, and what he was doing in that video would reveal the truth no one saw coming. The dramatic courtroom moment. The atmosphere in the courtroom was thick with anticipation. Lawyers, journalists, and spectators were all on edge as the final phase of Diddy's high-profile trial approached. For weeks, the prosecution had methodically laid out their case, presenting damning evidence that tied the entertainment mogul to a web of illegal activities, money laundering, coercion, and witness manipulation. It seemed like the end was near for Diddy. But then, at 9:22 a.m., everything changed. The doors to the courtroom suddenly swung open, and in walked a federal agent holding a secure device in his hands. The entire room fell silent. The judge, Claudia Reese, called for a 15-minute recess, and as the jury filed out, everyone was left wondering what was about to happen. Minutes later, the lights dimmed, and on the large screen at the front of the courtroom, an unexpected piece of evidence appeared. It wasn't the usual evidence you'd expect in a high-stakes trial. No photos, no documents. This was something far more powerful, a raw, unedited video. A piece of footage extracted from the private surveillance system of one of Diddy's properties, and it had been legally verified by the FBI. The video started, and there was no mistaking it. The man on screen wasn't Diddy. It was Justin Combs, Diddy's biological son. As the footage played, the courtroom watched in stunned silence. Justin, calm and composed, was seen giving orders. He listed names, coordinated personnel, and then, in a chilling command, told his team, "Make sure my father doesn't find out where this is happening. Don't route anything through his management accounts." The courtroom held its breath. What was this? How could Diddy, the man at the center of all these charges, have been so unaware? The video, just under 3 minutes, seemed to completely shift the narrative. The man who had been thought to be pulling the strings behind this massive criminal operation was suddenly sidelined. And now, the real question became clear. Was Diddy merely a shield for his son's covert activities? The reaction was immediate. Gasps from the audience. Journalists scrambled to tweet the news. For the first time in the entire trial, Diddy showed no emotion. His face remained impassive, but his eyes scanned the courtroom, stopping briefly at the back of the room where his son wasn't present. Diddy's defense team, led by the seasoned attorney Arthur Kelman, sat still, taking in the full weight of the moment. This was the turning point. The case that had seemed like a slam dunk for the prosecution was now hanging by a thread. The identity of the true orchestrator of the operation, Justin Combs, had been exposed, and the entire legal framework would have to be reevaluated. Would Diddy's defense be able to shift the focus entirely off of him and onto his son? The courtroom was about to find out.
The unexpected evidence. As the video ended, a profound silence settled over the courtroom. The unexpected footage had turned the tide in an instant, leaving everyone questioning what they had assumed to be true. The case against Diddy had appeared strong, with an extensive list of charges, from money laundering to orchestrating unlawful gatherings. The prosecution had used secret recordings and testimonies to paint a picture of a criminal mastermind, a man who had allegedly used his influence to run a hidden empire of illicit activities. But now, everything had changed. The video featuring Justin Combs, his biological son, presented a new reality. Diddy might not be the mastermind after all. He was no longer at the center of the case. His son was. The courtroom had been prepared for the prosecution to make its final arguments, but no one had expected this. The prosecution had based their entire case on Diddy's involvement in organizing and controlling the criminal network, using surveillance footage and witness testimonies that seemed irrefutable. But this video, raw and unedited, shattered the narrative. The focus now shifted from Diddy to Justin, and the implications were enormous. The FBI's authentication of the video only further solidified its legitimacy. The footage had been extracted from a high-rise property linked to Justin, not his father. The timestamp of the video aligned with one of the key events in the case, and the voice on the recording, calm, authoritative, and deliberate, was undeniably Justin's. The conversation he had with his team about hiding his involvement from his father was chilling. It was clear that Justin had been the one pulling the strings, using his father's name as a shield to cover his own actions. As the shockwaves rippled through the courtroom, the prosecution had no choice but to pause. They now had to reassess their entire approach to the case. The charges against Diddy had suddenly become less certain, and the question on everyone's mind was simple. If Justin had been the true orchestrator, what did that mean for Diddy's role in the alleged crimes?
Legal fallout. Justin at the center. The shift in focus was immediate and undeniable. The video footage had turned the entire trial on its head, and now the focus wasn't on Diddy anymore. It was on Justin Combs. The courtroom buzzed with murmurs as the implications of the new evidence sank in. What had initially been a case about a legendary artist caught in a criminal operation had now become a complex web of power, secrecy, and manipulation. And at the heart of it all was Justin. The legal fallout from the video was swift. Diddy, who had been seen as the orchestrator of this criminal empire, was now a sidelined figure. His son, Justin, had taken center stage. The more witnesses spoke, the clearer it became that Justin wasn't just an innocent bystander. He was deeply involved in every aspect of the operation. From organizing secret parties to controlling personnel and finances, Justin had been at the helm, operating behind the scenes. Witness testimonies began to corroborate the new narrative. Several individuals who had previously remained silent now pointed directly to Justin as the mastermind. Witness A24, who had previously remained silent, confirmed that it was Justin who had given the orders at multiple illegal events. Another witness, B37, who had been in hiding due to threats linked to Justin, also spoke out, revealing that it was Justin who had coordinated the logistics and covered expenses for the events, all while making sure to keep his father's name out of it. As the defense team processed the new information, they seized on the opportunity. Their strategy shifted dramatically. Diddy, once the prime defendant, was now positioned as a potential victim, a man unaware of the hidden empire his son had been orchestrating. His defense team began to work on framing Diddy as an innocent bystander, caught in the shadows of his son's actions. But this wasn't just a legal game of shifting blame. The media frenzy exploded as well, with the focus now squarely on Justin. The name Justin Combs was rapidly trending online, and speculation about his role in the case spread like wildfire.
Could it be that Diddy, for all his fame and influence, was merely a puppet, with his son pulling the strings all along? This new twist created a split in public opinion, with some insisting that Diddy was innocent, while others believed that the entire trial had been a setup to shield his son from the consequences of his actions.
The leaked evidence, the bombshell. By now, the courtroom was gripped by an overwhelming sense of disbelief. The video was just the beginning. A series of bombshells were about to drop, completely reshaping the narrative. Evidence that had been overlooked or underestimated earlier in the trial now came to the forefront, and it painted a shocking portrait of Justin Combs. What had once seemed like a simple case against Diddy was unraveling into a far more intricate story of manipulation and concealment. New footage quickly surfaced, and this time, it wasn't just a single video clip. A second, more detailed recording was presented, one that left little room for doubt. It showed Justin once again speaking in commanding tones as he directed his team to maintain tight security and secrecy around certain events. The most alarming part? Justin explicitly stated, "Don't mention my father's name. He doesn't need to know about this." The chilling clarity of these words made it clear Justin had been orchestrating things behind his father's back. But it wasn't just the video that exposed Justin's role. A trail of leaked documents and digital communications began to make its way into the courtroom, showing just how deeply Justin was embedded in this operation. There were payment receipts, emails, and messages from Justin himself, one of which stated, "Everything needs to be under the radar. If anyone asks, just say my father's not involved." This was a pivotal moment. The prosecution had relied heavily on the idea that Diddy was the mastermind. But now it was impossible to ignore the growing mountain of evidence against Justin. His presence in all the key moments, his calculated efforts to shield his father from suspicion, and his total control over the events painted a picture that left little to the imagination. The defense team was quick to capitalize on this, emphasizing that Diddy's silence throughout the trial might have been strategic, not to protect himself, but to protect his son. With this new evidence, the case was no longer about proving Diddy's innocence. It was about placing the blame squarely on Justin's shoulders. The courtroom, once focused on Diddy, now shifted its attention fully to the son, whose actions would soon be the center of a new investigation. The investigation intensified. As the courtroom drama unfolded, the implications of Justin's involvement became impossible to ignore. The video, the leaked communications, and witness testimonies all pointed to one undeniable truth. Justin Combs had been the central figure in this covert operation, using his father's name as a shield while orchestrating the criminal activities behind the scenes. With the trial taking this unexpected turn, the legal teams were forced to reevaluate their entire approach, but the stakes were even higher for federal investigators. The FBI's Cybercrimes Division jumped into overdrive. Investigators began to dig deeper into Justin's private assets, properties, and connections, quickly uncovering a network that had been carefully hidden from public view. One of the key discoveries was Justin's ownership of a luxury estate in West Beverly Hills, which had become a hub for several of the illegal events mentioned throughout the trial. What raised the most suspicion was the property's recent transfer to a private trust just weeks after the investigation into Diddy had started, an unusual move that immediately triggered an investigation by the IRS. A series of surveillance videos and audio recordings emerged, adding further fuel to the fire. These pieces of evidence painted an increasingly detailed picture of Justin's role. In one recording, Justin was heard clearly instructing a team to keep everything under wraps, reinforcing the idea that he was not only the mastermind, but someone who knew exactly how to cover his tracks. The urgency in his tone was unmistakable. "No one can link this back to my father," he commanded. "If something goes wrong, I'll take the fall, but not him." As the investigation intensified, more witnesses were brought in, each confirming Justin's direct involvement in the planning and execution of these illegal activities. Witness A24, who had been hesitant to speak out earlier, was now providing detailed information about Justin's central role in coordinating the events. Meanwhile, Witness B37, who had been hiding under witness protection due to threats, confirmed that Justin had covered travel expenses and ensured that his father's name remained entirely unconnected to any of the operations. This growing body of evidence pointed in one clear direction. Justin Combs was the person pulling the strings, and the walls were closing in on him. Federal authorities had no choice but to escalate their efforts, with many now questioning how far his influence reached. Could this be a well-orchestrated scheme to protect Diddy, or was the father truly in the dark about his son's operations? The investigation had shifted from a case of potential complicity to a fierce battle to hold Justin accountable for his actions.
The shift in public perception. Outside the courtroom, the revelations about Justin Combs began to ripple through the media, sparking a firestorm of debate. The courtroom, once a focused battleground between the prosecution and Diddy's defense, now seemed like a distant echo compared to the frenzy of opinions that flooded news outlets and social media platforms. Headlines began to shift, and public perception was rapidly evolving. The shift was immediate. CNN's early morning broadcast headlined with the stunning news: FBI pulls Diddy from indictment list, the turning point of a storm. The article highlighted the FBI's decision to suspend charges against Diddy, citing the overwhelming evidence now pointing to his son, Justin, as the mastermind behind the operation. Meanwhile, the New York Post took a much harsher tone. Son faces jail, father walks free. A modern family ghost story. The opposing headlines perfectly encapsulated the split in public opinion. Some believed Diddy had been duped, while others argued that this was a calculated move to protect his son at all costs. Social media exploded. Hashtags like "he didn't know" and "a convenient truth" began trending across platforms. The former represented those who believed Diddy was a victim of his son's hidden agenda, while the latter reflected skepticism about the timing and authenticity of the leaked evidence. With millions of people following the story in real time, every new piece of information, every leaked video or document only intensified the public's division on the issue. The shifting narrative in the courtroom mirrored the growing divide among the public. Was Diddy truly innocent, a man caught in the crossfire of his son's schemes? Or was this just a clever maneuver to shield him from the consequences of his actions? The more the case unraveled, the more the media amplified the complexities of the situation, creating a swirl of confusion and intrigue. One thing was clear: public perception was no longer just about criminal responsibility. It had become a battle for justice and redemption, with Diddy's reputation hanging in the balance. While the court focused on the legality of the charges, the court of public opinion was already drawing its own conclusions.
The new shock: data interference. Just as the courtroom drama seemed to settle into a new rhythm with Justin's involvement taking center stage, another bombshell dropped, this time shaking the very foundation of the case. New evidence surfaced, and it wasn't just about Justin's actions anymore, it was about the integrity of the evidence that had been presented against Diddy. The prosecution, which had relied heavily on surveillance footage and digital evidence to build their case, now faced an unprecedented crisis: the possibility that crucial data had been tampered with. At 5:22 p.m. on June 14th, a new file was submitted to the court, labeled 721 Interrupted Sequence. It was an unencrypted recording from a backup system at Justin's private estate, which had not been included in the initial evidence seizure. What made this file so significant was not just its unexpected appearance, but the disturbing implications it carried. The footage showed signs of data manipulation. The recording, while partially fragmented, revealed a hooded figure, later identified as someone with a striking resemblance to Justin, interfering with the security system.
The person was seen removing a hard drive from the control unit, potentially altering the footage that had been used as key evidence throughout the trial. This new piece of information was not just a technical issue, it was a legal game changer. The FBI's forensic team immediately began investigating, with experts noting that there were multiple signs of interference, including altered file formats and gaps in the timeline. Data previously deemed as unaltered and irrefutable was now in question. Had the footage shown in court been tampered with before it was submitted? If so, could the entire case, both the accusations against Diddy and the new focus on Justin, be based on compromised evidence? The entire legal team was on edge, as the question now loomed: was everything that had been shown in court the real truth, or had someone quietly rewritten the narrative without anyone noticing? The stakes had just gotten higher.
Conclusion. As the courtroom drama reached its climax, it became clear that this was no longer just a simple case of criminal responsibility. What had started as an investigation into Diddy's alleged illegal activities had morphed into something far more complex: a battle over truth, control, and the power of data. The evidence, once thought to be indisputable, was now clouded with uncertainty. The real question shifted from whether Diddy was guilty to whether the case had been manipulated from the very start. The video footage that initially seemed like a game changer had uncovered a hidden world of power, manipulation, and secrecy, with Diddy's son, Justin, at the heart of it. As the layers of the case peeled away, it became evident that Justin had been orchestrating the entire operation behind the scenes. But just as the prosecution thought they had their breakthrough, the discovery of tampered evidence exposed a deeper truth. Perhaps the evidence itself had been manipulated, casting doubt on everything that had come before. In the public sphere, the story was no longer about a father and son caught in a tangled web of crime. It was about the fragility of truth itself. Could the justice system rely on the data presented to it? If a simple video could be altered, then how many other pieces of evidence had been twisted to serve a narrative? The trial had exposed not only the dark side of the Coombs family, but also the vulnerabilities of the legal system in the age of digital manipulation. As Diddy's defense team reoriented their strategy, the case was no longer just about clearing his name, it was about restoring faith in the process that had brought them here. Whether or not Diddy would be fully exonerated, one thing was clear: the fight was far from over, and the real mastermind may still remain in the shadows, controlling the narrative from behind the scenes. The courtroom had become just another battleground in a larger war for power, truth, and control over information. And in this case, the truth seemed more elusive than ever before.